Hello, 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 hello. Good day, everyone, and welcome to Treasury Hub GH. We're so much excited to have you join us here, and it will be very brief in less than 15 minutes. What we'll try and do is just to unpack if I could say, the topical issue over the last week where Ghana has, for the first time, been able to issue a commercial paper or have a commercial paper listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange. So it's going to be an educative video because we are pretty much excited because this is the maiden issuance, and this would go a long way to sort of drive and deepen our financial market, especially on the money market front, which is a good base or a good foundation to a more liquid, a more robust capital market where you have our bonds issued. So like I mentioned, this is Treasury Hub GH, and you're welcome to our illustrative video for today. We'll keep it very short. I'm sure by 10 minutes we should be done, tops 15 minutes. And before we dive into the crux of this discussion, we want to issue a disclaimer. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just for educative purposes. This is just a video sort of describing commercial paper markets, try to understand what it means for Ghana, and then also to maybe have a sneak peek into who this new issuer is. So once again, this presentation is meant to educate the general public on what commercial papers are, simply for their information purposes, right? This presentation or this illustrative video does not represent any opinion to buy, hold, or sell any commercial paper nor financial instrument. I had to put that across. These days we have a number of legal claims. So yes, now after this disclaimer, then what we do now is just to zoom straight into what commercial papers are, and don't think of it too much, right? Just look at our current financial market and then think of the fixed deposits that banks issue. So if you go to a bank and you say you want to invest CD, they're going to tell you, okay, we have a fixed deposit. The other name for that is a term deposit, or a certificate of deposit. Some call it negotiable certificate of deposit. Whichever way, these are instruments that are issued by the banks, right? If you don't want a security or an instrument issued by the banks, you could also opt for Government of Ghana Treasury bills, right, which also are sold by these banks, right? There's another security which these banks invest in. Unfortunately, is not open to the general public, but there's also a Bank of Ghana bill which is also issued in that space. So the point we are trying to drive at is all of these issuances have less than 1 year to maturity, and it is similar to what we call a commercial paper. So the only difference, the silver lining here, is commercial papers are issued by corporates, right? So you have on one hand where fixed deposit or certificate of deposit are issued by banks. GOGT bills are issued by Ministry of Finance, obviously, and then central bank bills are issued by Bank of Ghana. So this one is when a corporate, and you can think of any corporate at all. It could be MTN, it could be any company you can easily think about, right? They issue these short-term borrowings. It's also a way of raising funds for them. And it's just a promise, or an IOU, as we say in our basic finance. Now, the tenor for these commercial papers are usually less than 1 year, right? So if you say you want to issue a commercial paper, the tenor has to be below 1 year. For those corporates that are issuing beyond 1 year, we call them corporate bonds, right? So if it goes beyond 1 year, it becomes a corporate bond. But if it's below 1 year, it becomes a corporate commercial paper. Or you can simply ignore the corporate and then just mention commercial paper or a CP. Now, in general, these CPs, because of their short-term nature, obviously, if you are issuing something for less than 1 year, we don't expect you to put it in an investment that is non-current asset. The accountant will tell you long-term asset. you're supposed to use the proceeds of these issuance to finance current assets or short-term asset, right? So short-term asset, maybe you are buying stock, right? Or maybe you are paying off some short-term liability. All of these are short-term debt. So what you're essentially doing from Accounting 101 is to borrow short-term current liability to pay off or to create short-term assets or current assets. Now let's look at the features of these commercial papers. The first we want to talk about is the purpose, which I've already alluded to. CPs are purely for short-term funding, right, and for current assets funding. Again, these CPs are negotiable, and negotiable in the sense that demand and supply actually determines the price, right? So it's not like it comes at a particular rate and you either take or leave. Investors and the issuer would always find a middle ground and then trade these instruments. Again, there could also be a secondary market, right? By secondary market, we mean that after the issuance has happened, if you don't want to hold the paper to maturity, maybe you bought a 120-day commercial paper, you don't have to wait for 120 days to get out of that position or to get out of that instrument. You can actually sell it to somebody else who will be happy to carry it on either to maturity or to when they also feel they have to sell. Then the third feature I want to talk about is the CP being an alternative investment. For some time now, a number of people have been asking if there's any real investment tool out there apart from Government of Ghana T-bills and obviously bank FDs. Well, there you have your answer. There's a commercial paper market now, so you can speak to your trusted bank, you can speak to your trusted broker on how to buy these commercial papers, and I'm sure they'll be more than happy to help you diversify your portfolio. Now, the key feature of this CP market is the regulation. So with especially bank deposits, there's not so much regulation governing fixed deposits, sort of. But with commercial papers, it has to be signed off by heavily regulated entities, right? And we have the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. We have the Ghana Stock Exchange, where the paper will be listed. And then we have the Ghana Fixed Income Market, which is sort of the secondary market where the paper will trade after issuance. Now, last, we have the flexibility of commercial papers in the sense that commercial papers can be issued at a discount, just like the T-bills we buy from Government of Ghana. Or they could be issued at par, just like the FDs we buy from banks. So with par, it means that you get debited an amount, and then on maturity, you'll be paid principal plus interest. Whereas if it is issued at a discount, if say you want to buy 5 million, you'll be debited 4.5 today, and then in future, you get 5 million. Okay, so let's move on. Now, why at all do these corporates want to issue commercial papers? Let's just walk through three main reasons. Now, the first one is, and we've mentioned this 3 times already, for short-term working capital, right? You want to raise current liabilities to finance current assets. Now, for a corporate, there's a need to also diversify funding sources. Just like investors would want to diversify funding sources, corporates as well also would want to diversify funding sources, i.e. they wouldn't want to go for the usual overdraft from the banks, from the usual loans from the banks, or probably capital from their shareholders. They can actually issue a commercial paper which will diversify their pool of funds. Now, the last bit will be for the corporate to manage its interest rate risk. Think about it this way. Up until now, let's say a corporate, you have a loan with a bank that you pay, let's say JRR plus a spread, right? It should come to around 30% for most of the banks. Now, currently where interest rates are falling, you could take advantage of it and then issue a commercial paper which would help you raise cheaper than the 30%, and then probably just pay off that 30% debt, which is extremely expensive in the context of where government of Ghana rates are at the moment. So it's also a great interest rate risk management tool that should help corporates navigate challenging times on the interest rate front. Now, let's look at the number of listings that has been done in Ghana so far. I must mention that all of these ones cannot be classified as commercial papers because the tenor was more than 1 year. So we put these in the category of corporate bonds. And starting from 2014 to 2024, there's been a number of corporates come onto the market to issue these papers, right? And we can see them neatly here, with some of them having been bought back or liquidated, but some are actively running at the moment. Now, away from the previous issuances on the corporate bond side, now the latest we have, and as a matter of fact, the maiden on the commercial paper is from Fedco, who has issued or is set to raise 200 million. Actually, it goes up to 300 million. And the first tranche that has been issued is 72.5 million cedis, which was done on 17th April, live or right at the Ghana Stock Exchange. And you can see here all parties involved in the transaction there. And yeah, it was a great event. Now, on that particular issuance, let's look at some of the finer details or some of the initial details we have gathered from various online platforms and various news reportage, right? I would entreat all of you to, if you want to do anything, maybe you could read more about this issuance and then get additional information. But this is just meant to be a primer or an initial thought and discussion on the issuance. So in terms of total size, the prospectus actually says that 200 million, but they could look up to 300 million maximum in case of oversubscription, right? And the first tranche, which is the 72.5 million, has been issued already. Our yield, the yield per the contract is to always reference Government of Ghana 182-day treasury bill. So it is always the GOG 182-day T-bill plus a 250 basis point or 2.5 percentage points spread, right? So with this information, it means that the 72.5 million issuance probably came at in and around 19.4, 19.5%, looking at where T-bill rates are at the moment. Now, the tenor of this issuance was 150 days. And in terms of additional features, it was exciting to know that this issuance is actually guaranteed by an insurance company and then is also credit rated by a local credit rating organization. So, guys, this is an initial thought, an initial educative video on our commercial paper market and the maiden issuance that has been made. We'll also conclude again with our disclaimer, which goes to show or goes to tell that this video is by no means a marketing or an opinion to buy anything or sell anything or hold anything. It's just educative, just to put across onto the market that there is something new. There is a product for those who are keen on investing. They can look at it, and those who are just using it for information purposes or for their studies, this is how commercial papers look like, and this is how Ghana has fared in terms of the maiden issuance. So guys, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate, as always. Do well to subscribe, do well to like our pages. We are active on LinkedIn, we are active on X, formerly Twitter, we are active on Instagram. Almost everywhere you find Gen Zs, you'll also find us there. So thank you very much once again, and until next time, have a good day.